And with that, it's Leroy Hoard time here on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show.
Haven't seen this guy in a while.
There's that background. I love it.
Hey, let's go.
Look at that shirt, though. Why'd you have to wear that shirt?
We back at it, man.
Because I'll be up there next week.
Hey, Leroy, people are starting to call Deontay Foreman the Leroy Hoard of the 2020s. What do you think about that?
That's disrespectful.
Come
Come on now.
Nah. Nobody's calling him that. I'm just busting your chops.
I know. But
By some people, he means himself.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
No,
I would say this, is that I played football a little bit differently because I had decent speed, but I wasn't as fast as Eric Metcalf, so I couldn't avoid confrontations. So I lived and played my whole career based on this saying, now what? And that is, okay, you eluded the blocker. You have the running back coming at you. Now what? And I was able to win a lot of those confrontations so that I could have success. So, it didn't matter who was out there. It didn't matter what was going on because I just did me.
By the way, Leroy, you and Bernie Kosar in an Oklahoma drill, who comes out on top?
I wouldn't hit Bernie.
Bernie ends up in the hospital.
I wouldn't hit Bernie. Because all I can imagine is us colliding and him going, bro.
No more hits, bro.
No more hits, bro.
So, no, I would not. I tell you what, one of the guys that was very pivotal in helping me early on in my career, I could do no harm to Bernie, ever.
Yeah.
Hey, Leroy, looking at this game this week, obviously we've been talking so much about Deshaun and so much about this offseason. It's been so long, man, since we feel like we've had a real game, especially even the preseason's been super long. But as we approach this game this week, no Nick Chubb. I'm curious your take on the rushing attack because Kevin Stefanski has been so big on running the football to set up the pass and being this aggressive team. Without Nick Chubb, how much do you anticipate the Browns, relying on the ground attack?
See, the great thing about football is you are who you are, right? Without certain pieces, you may not be as good, but you still are who you are. You're going to run the football. You're going to do play action. You're going to do things to get your guys open in the secondary, and hopefully you have a quarterback that can complete the pass. That's just the way they are. That's the way they've been. And I have the utmost confidence in Kevin Stefanski for this reason. He went to the playoffs with 5 quarterbacks. 5 quarterbacks. And
Some of them
so
are pretty bad.
And if you want the other side of that, look at the New York Jets.
Yeah.
So you should have more appreciation for what Kevin Stefanski did when you look around the league and one guy goes down and it's over. So I'm going to have some faith in what he can do with that offense and what Ford and the other guys can do. I just think that, a lot of running the football is no penetration and hoping the running back has vision. And the offensive line has done a hell of a job of doing that the last couple of years. I heard you guys talking about Deshaun Watson, and one of the things that I try to shy away from, you ever try to do something because you want to have success so bad and you try so hard that it becomes an epic failure?
100 times in my life.
Golf.
So the way you guys are explaining as to what Deshaun Watson has to do, the only thing I want to hear and the only thing that I heard that I could agree with is lead. Lead. Whatever that's required of you to lead. And that is, there are going to be moments in the game where you got to make a play. Then just accept it and make that play. Don't force it. Just make the play. Right? But if you go out there and try too hard, you can't be relaxed and play with your natural abilities. No matter if I ever tried to play extra hard, I was tight. I was uncomfortable. And it got to the point where in my career, I just went out and played. It is what it is. And you have to have that approach, knowing that the work that you put in and your preparation and your talent is going to get you over the hump. But if Deshaun Watson goes out there and tries too hard to make plays, then he's going to put his team in a bad spot. And so I don't necessarily care about the numbers. as much as I care about how he looks as a general in that offense on the field. And you want to, after this game, get the feeling that, okay, he's going to be our quarterback for the year. We can just ride with him. And it won't be the numbers that tells you that. It won't be, all those things, because I think this is a game here. When you talk about Dallas's defense, everybody in the world has gashed him. So it's probably going to be an emphasis on running the football. And we tend to overlook that because till this day, who's their defensive guy?
Micah Parsons?
Mike Zimmer.
Micah Parsons has not set an edge since he's been in the league.
Yeah. Well.
And so what you do is you exploit those things.
Green Bay did.
Right. And so let's look at the bigger picture of what's going on. My only hope for this team is that it happens a lot in sports where you have a dominant side of the ball and you spend the next 10 years trying to catch up. When you finally catch up, the other side of the ball has gotten old.
Yeah.
And the way this defense has played the last 4 or 5 years, right? I would just like a comparable offense to be able to go out there so they can play complementary football. And we can see what the overall picture would look like centered around what that defense can do getting after the football.
Yeah, especially before Myles Garrett hangs up his jersey.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I agree with you on one thing you just said, Leroy. I believe that, this game can't come down to Deshaun Watson throwing the ball 40 or 50 times.
Right.
They have to be at least married to the idea of continually running the football, even if it isn't for chunk plays, even if it isn't for 30 or 40 yards. It's just the threat and the idea of, hey, don't be running upfield. We can run this football. When you look at Jerome Ford, right, it's always a mixed feeling when you got Jerome Ford, right? Obviously he's not Nick Chubb. What are your thoughts on Jerome Ford?
But that's why you got that mixed feeling.
Right? You know what I'm saying?
That mixed feeling. You got that mixed feeling. Nah, he's not built like Nick Chubb.
Right.
He's just different. He's a different kind of guy. He runs with some physicality, but more speed. Mm-hmm. He's not as confrontational as Nick Chubb is. And you just kind of accept that. What you do when you watch him play is all you want to see is he running tough? Is he finding the right spots to run tough? There's guys that have speed and have physical attributes, and they don't know where they're running, and it looks terrible. So as long as he can do that, you know what I mean? And you see he's making good decisions. He's running with the football. He's protecting. He's doing all those things. He'll be fine. And we've seen that out of him. You've seen that burst and that explosiveness through the line. At times, he looked tentative because he wasn't quite sure where to go or what he was looking at. But as he's gotten along in his career, you see he's made more decisive decisions. That's with coaching. That's with playing. That's with a lot of things, get more opportunities. So hopefully we'll see that next progression of him putting it all together.
Leroy, as a running back, what was the difference for you? Year 1 to year 2, year 2 to year 3?
Year 1 was a cluster bleep because I lost more games my rookie year in the NFL than I lost in high school and college put together.
Yikes.
So imagine what that's like for a 22-year-old going into a team that just came off the AFC Championship game.
Right.
So it was a culture shock for me. The next year, believe it or not, I had more yards receiving than I did rushing. So I didn't have, because I caught a lot of passes. It wasn't until my third year where they started using me more as a running back. And then the fourth year when everybody got hurt and Bill Belichick had no choice.
What about, for you, from a skill standpoint?
For me, when did it click? It clicked going into my second year. But what happened for me is that you realized that you were the only option. And then it became more of a responsibility than you just playing football. You got to be responsible to your teammates and other guys on the field, because when you turn around and look for somebody else, there was nobody else coming in.
Yeah, right.
And so I was kind of scared straight, if there's no other way to put it. And plus I had guys like Kevin Mack, Ernest Biner, Eric Metcalf, on me, right? Hey man, you got to pick this up. Now, the one thing I will say is I always was good in the playbook. So from the day I got in, I always knew what to do. It was just a matter of being a better pro at it. And when Bill Belichick came in, it was, a bit of a culture change. That had a lot to do with it, and the way he prepared and the way he had us prepare for games. And then going into my third and fourth year, it was just a matter of, I know what to do, let's just prepare and go out and do it. And then I was able, for the rest of my career, just know, even if I changed teams, I knew the basic scheme of things. And so I understood, concepts and stuff like that. Right. And I was still able to just go out, get the ball, and do, and play running back.
Leroy, one of the questions we had asked each other yesterday was Myles Garrett. Can he have a season better than he had last year, which was unbelievable, like an all-time great season? A lot of us think he can continue to grow. And second year in Jim Schwartz's defense, and we know how talented he is. Is it possible for Myles Garrett to get any better?
I want you to go tell him you can't.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be the one. That dude, his forearms are big as my calves. Yeah. No, you know what? One of the things I love about watching him play is he's a guy who's dominant, who dominates, and will cause havoc on that side of the ball. You're not going to be stronger than him. You're not going to be more physical than him. And in most cases, you're not going to be as quick as him off the ball. And I think when other guys see him, those other D linemen, he sets that standard. And I think, and I wish that he would demand it on both sides of the ball. Everybody isn't built for that, but I kind of, with how he does things, I wish he did have that voice to be able to put those demands on everybody. And I'm not saying he should or shouldn't. I'm just saying I wish that he could, because we had, you have guys on either side of the ball that can come up to you and you respected them enough to say, hey, we need to get it going, and you respect those words and you go out and get it done.
Leroy, yesterday, another thing we talked about was Jack Conklin, who's been a right guard basically his whole career, potentially starting week 1 at left tackle. We had Tyvis on the panel, in addition to G and Dustin. They all played defense. You played offense. I know you didn't play the offensive line, but you were heavily involved with the offensive line.
Yes.
Talk about, from your perspective, the challenge of a guy who's been an excellent player, but he's coming off injury, and he hasn't played left tackle in probably a decade. How hard will that be?
Here's the hardest thing for people to understand. Playing on the right side of the line and playing on the left side of the line is like trying to write left-handed if you're right-handed. Everything is in a flipped perspective, right? As far as what hand goes down, what foot goes back, your first step in the pass protection, your first step in the run game, everything is like trying to be left-handed. Now, I will say this. There's certain players that can do it. A lot of times you'll bring in a guy who played left tackle in college, and if you have a stud at left tackle, you move him to right tackle, right? We've seen that a lot. It's not uncommon to then move him back. Now, what I would say about him is he was one of the best top 5 offensive linemen you had, and you wanted to see him work somewhere, and he was able to do it at guard. It wasn't a situation where, oh, okay, let's just put him at guard. It was, no, we got to get him on the field. And so can he go back to, the other side of the ball? I mean, if they had any questions, he wouldn't be doing it. But it is a unique skill set to be able to switch like that. That's why you have your versatile linemen. You have those 1 or 2 linemen that can play all over the line. And people always say, well, why is he on the team? Because he can do something that a lot of offensive linemen in the league can do. Play center, guard, move around when somebody gets banged up. Like that utility guy you sit in the dugout that don't hardly ever play except when the stars get a day off. That's what your utility lineman is. He can play 1 of 3 positions, center, guard. So, yes, it can be done. They must think very highly of him to move him from right guard to left tackle. And
let's hope he's like Jose Ramirez and can bat both sides. You know what I mean? Be ambidextrous. And be able to
speaking of that, hey, by the way, I was at a game where Carlos Baerga hit a home run from both sides of the plate in the same inning.
Yes, it was the first one ever to do it. He might still be the only one ever to do it. I just talked to Carlos about that not long ago. Leroy, let me ask you this, and I'm glad Bull went to the offensive line because really that's normally one of our strengths. I think this year, if you're putting things into categories, strength, weakness, question mark, to me, the offensive line is a question mark because there will be guys playing out of position and because there are injuries. The other reason, and probably the biggest reason to me, is Bill Callahan's not here anymore.
Wait, Jay, I got to cut you off for 1 second.
Okay.
Mary Kay just tweeted Jed Wills expected to practice today. First time since
All right,
the
never
injury.
mind the
that
last
literally
5 minutes
just
of the
came
show.
out 1 second ago. So
Okay, that would be great news. All that being taken into consideration, and that is good news. But
Show
Leroy,
turn.
what will the loss of Bill Callahan look like to the Browns fans when we turn the game on Sundays and watch the offensive line?
Sometimes the coach is the impetus behind how you play, right?
Yep.
The attitude that you bring. Not necessarily the techniques that you play with, but how you play with those techniques. Mm-hmm. If they have a guy there now that continues that message, then they'll be fine. But there's a reason why Bill Callahan was one of the best in the league at it.
Sure.
Every offensive line he was on got better. So it'll be interesting to see, and I would probably have a little question about that too. But I'm more concerned with, look, there's a lot of question marks after week 1. And if you're a team that hasn't had the success of other teams, your questions are a little bit louder, right? Teams that haven't been in the playoffs, I'm down here in Miami, they haven't won a playoff game in 20 plus years. So everything is a question. Mm-hmm. But if you look at what this team has done and the success they've had in a couple of years with just with circumstances that weren't very positive, they've still managed to win some games. So if you can get everybody healthy and you can have everybody just playing, it seems to be that they have the talent to be able to compete against anybody.
Good stuff, Leroy.
Yeah, great stuff. Leroy, we'll talk next week. Hopefully we'll have good things to talk about.
Who's going to be at the game? I'm going.
You're going to the Browns game Sunday?
Yeah.
When do you get into town?
I'm coming in Friday. And then I'm driving to, me and Metcalf driving over to, hey, can I just tell a story of some bad friends?
We love stories.
Yeah, please.
So, me and Metcalf have been talking trash about this game for 30 plus years.
Mm-hmm. He's talking about
He's talking about Texas, Michigan.
Yes. It's happening.
So you're not coming to Cleveland for the game. You're coming to Michigan.
No.
Or you're going to Michigan.
He's coming here, then driving.
Then you're driving here.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So I say, okay, Met, we going to fly in. I'm going to rent a car. Okay. Saturday morning, I'm going to pick you up. What hotel you staying in? We'll drive over, come back. Loser buys dinner,
Nice.
And then we'll go to the Browns game on Sunday.
Wonderful.
He goes, yeah, I'm flying into Michigan because I'm going to hang out with my boy. I say, well, I just meet you at the game. Well, we got to meet up beforehand because I'm going to have my luggage. I'm like, what the hell kind of friend are you? I'm not chasing you around Michigan.
Wow.
Right. So this all these players we had these players for 30 years. And then we get to 3 days before we got to be there, and he say, yeah, I'm going to be in Michigan. I say, well, you better find me Because, you're going to be the only dude walking, looking for a ticket with your luggage. Because I'm not, no. Absolutely not. It's like, no.
Hey,
I'm not driving around Michigan trying. What you looking for, sir? Metcalf. No!
G. Bush is about to defend it.
Hey, nah, bro.
You can't defend that.
I'm going to tell you what, Leroy, you know, there's a good saying in the hood, man. Hey, Avon Barksdale, A-string, that's what you get for playing all them away games. We don't play no away games. I gotta have the home field advantage. I'm not gonna be in Detroit walking around with no luggage. Nah, bro. I gotta have my itinerary.
Texas garb on.
Hey, the itinerary has been set for 4 months.
Oh, he doing too much. He doing too much.
Then at the last minute, he said, I'm going to just meet up with you in Michigan.
Oh, nah.
I'm like, what?
Nah, that ain't it.
Nothing worse than the guy that wants to go to this game or a game and try to see everybody.
Yeah,
it's like you can't see everybody.
Pick your priorities.
Either it's the SEAL Team 6. It's us two and 4 people.
Yeah, you try to see everyone. You don't give Leroy the time that he wants.
You can't have no caravan. You can't do it.
Nah, it ain't the time thing. It's the why are you flying into another state? We supposed to be riding in this game together.
Well, fair enough.
So that means
too.
You know what's gonna happen. Here's what you call
it.
Hello, what's up? Hey Hoard, I'm just outside of Ann Arbor. Come meet me. That's what's gonna happen.
Exactly.
Hey, before we let you go,
you know it's gonna happen.
But before we let you go, on the confidence meter, 1 to 10, where are you that Michigan comes out unscathed?
Is Connor Stallions on the sideline or no?
He is no longer on the sidelines.
I'm going to say this. Anytime you get 15 guys drafted, that next year is going to be a toss-up.
Yeah. That happens at Ohio State every year.
No, it doesn't. Stop.
Yes, it does.
Stop.
We just reload, brother.
Stop. Oh, okay. Well, look. We ain't got to that point yet. We just won a championship. When's the last time you won a championship? Hush. Anyway.
You better hold on to that championship tightly because it's about to get ripped out of your hands, and you know I'm right.
You said that last year.
Yeah, and it's closer to coming true than ever before.
If you keep saying it, eventually it'll come true. All I'm saying is this, okay? I had questions not because of them being able to reload, but you got a lot of high drafted players like at quarterback and whatever.
Big spots.
Y'all got some big spots, right? Big spots. I thought that they would be able to run all over Fresno State, and I was shocked.
Yeah,
right. And so I don't want to take anything away from Fresno State. Maybe their offensive line, defensive line is awesome.
Yeah, tell yourself.
But I'm gonna say this: Michigan, no matter what, can run the football on anybody, and to see them struggle running the football, I got
so
questions.
You're 5,
and
right?
Sark,
so you're 5.
Yeah, I would say 5. And
right.
Sark, keep in mind, he brought the SEC over there. So they play a physical style.
Yeah, they do.
They're big up front. Yep. So, yeah.
All right, Leroy, we'll see you next week, brother.
All right.
Later, Leroy.
All right,